But I am
Okay, we are going to start from the line just below the middle of the page, Dafka. The line begins with the word Dafka. The line above it is Anoichi.
Dafka from Moshe Koshu?
Dafka from Moshe Koshu.
Anochi.
So then, at the end of that line, so we are now finishing off this point about tshuva. That tshuva is from Pnimis HaNefesh Dafka. It says at the end of the line, the Gam B'chinas tshuva tato, which means to say that even the aspect of tshuva tato, the lower level of tshuva. What is the lower level of tshuva? Shehu, which essentially means hacharot al ha'over v'kabol al ha'aba. The regret for the past and the recommitment for the future. So this is not, so to speak, a pure and essential element of tshuva. This is a tshuva that has a cause, that there is something to be regretful about, and he has to recommit himself for the future. And then in parentheses, which we already said, Shezehu Yikero HaTshuva, and principally this is the tshuva apiposhut in a simple sense. Ukmeshikosu Rambam Yichus Tshuva Pinik Beis Halacha Beis, as Rambam writes, Sheyazev HaChetei Chetoi, that the Chetei, the sinner, should let go of his sin, V'yasira Miliba, and he should remove it from his heart. This is this is the principle of tshuva. We discussed yesterday a little bit the asira miliba. We'll discuss it more now. So it says it's even tshuva tato. Haritzorich lihyo is hadovon negeya b'pnimiyus liboy. It must be, in order that the tshuva should be tshuva in the full sense of the word, and should have its ultimate effect, it has to be something that it should be negeya, it should touch, and it should be a response and trouble him b'pnimiyusly, in the depths of his heart, in the inside of his heart. In other words, as we discussed the other day, the charota, the regret for the past, is not in concern about what the consequences of that may be. But his concern in the regret for the past is because that b'pnimis halev from the inside of his heart itself, without a consideration of consequences, he regrets it. V'yischored be'emes, and thus yischored be'emes, he will regret in truth. And as we discussed many times, when you say be'emes, it means that there is no peripheral cause for it. Again, I mentioned it's not the concern about consequences. Be'emes means that it comes from the truth of his heart. This means be'emes. This is an important principle in general to understand, and as many times as we repeat it, it always bears to be repeated again. We must not lose sense that in the heart and even in the mind there is an element of truth, which means we are seeking things because of their truth, not because there is some kind of a pressure, some kind of a reason, some kind of response to circumstance that triggers that desire. This be'emes, there's a truth in the heart which comes from the truth of the nefesh, which comes from the truth of the godly truth. Therefore, yischored be'emes. Even when we talk about regret, there has to be an element of truth, something that touches him very personally. As the Rambam writes, in the same place in Ichus Tshuva, that how does one do tshuva, as we called it before, right before the parenthesis, he should remove it from his heart. What does it mean that he should remove it from his heart? So the Rambam concludes, add to the point sheyoid olav yoidei ta'alumis. Yoidei ta'alumis means the one who knows all subtleties and all concealed elements that are present in a person's heart. That he will be able to testify upon him, that he will not revert back to this foolishness and to his erroneous ways. Bezehu, and that only happens kasher mischored be'emes, when he regrets be'emes in truth. And as we discussed what truth means, v'oikir mitzritzoyne mizeh, and he completely uproots his will, his interest in this aspect. Oz le'yoshuv oid, then he will not revert back to it. We have to understand, nobody can guarantee that a person will never err again. Even at Tzaddik Gomer, he says as at Tzaddik Gomer, there's no guarantee, as long as a human being is in this world, the Shom of a Guf, there's no guarantee that he will not fail. So when we say that means that at this moment, as things are now, it's unconscionable that he will revert back, because none of his connection to that aspect of that interest has remained. He has completely uprooted all interest in that. Whether it's possible that it should find its way back into his heart, yeah, absolutely it is possible. Okay, Baharot or Be'emes, this Harot that we discussed, that has to be Be'emes, that can only happen Kasher Ho'inyan Noigei Aloi B'pnimius Nafsh, when the Inyan touches him, B'pnimius Nafsh, in the essence of his nefesh. Again, as we mentioned, pnimius means that there are no external causes for it, but it is from the inside of the nefesh itself. Oz, then harayum ischorim be'emes, then he regrets truth for oiker etzoinai, and he uproots his will from this inyan. Just one point to elaborate a little bit. Tshuva is a very rich and significant, a very meaningful aspect. And we said B'pnimius Nafshi, I just want to point out that it's an Ageya. How is it touching B'pnimius Nafshi? It is due to the fact that, as we said, the nefesh has a pnimius. In other words, the nefesh is a godly spark. The nefesh is connected, and its presence is one with the godly presence. Therefore, when there is a sense that he is severing his relationship, his connection to godliness, then the nefesh is pained internally. because this is contrary to its own reality. And therefore is mischored bemis v'ikir etzeni. V'zehu tshuva tato. This is so far only the union of tshuva tato. And even in tshuva tato, it is something which is beyond consequence, beyond the result of any kind of activity. It is something which is from the essential reality itself, the emes. And that essential reality touches Lamaila also the essential reality. Kol shekein tshuva ilo. And how much more so, this is true when we talk about tshuva ilo, the higher aspect of tshuva. Shu bibchinas pnimius halev. Surely that tshuva ilo is in the pnimius halev, and he doesn't elaborate on this. It's not necessary for the purposes of what we're discussing, because our focus is not on defining tshuva. Our focus is defining the mitzvah of tshuva where its root is. And we say tshuva comes from the atzmos. And as is evident from the fact that tshuva lamato by a person, tshuva is something which is dependent on pnimis alev. V'hainu, and thus this explains to us what we said originally: the mitzvah tshuva hi hamshochas b'chinas atzmus ba'al horotzeh. That the mitzvah of tshuva is to draw down and to relate to be the b'chinas atzmus, the ba'al horotzeh, not the rotzein. As we said, all mitzvahs are rooted in the rotzein, in rotzein hagolus. As we explained in several times over these days, that because Hashem is present in our midst, therefore there has to be certain qualifiers, certain conditions that allow that presence. This is the mitzvahs that comes at mitzvah Rotzen Hagol. In order for Hashem to be able to be participating in our activities, there has to be these mitzvahs and that allow him to be there, to participate in with us. This is all mitzvah, the participation lamato. Tshuva goes way beyond that. This is not due to participation. This is how he is unto himself. So that is where tshuva is rooted from. Which is what enables tshuva to correct all misdeeds. Val Kain, because it has hamshochas, you have to be mamshech atzmas ba'al rotzin. Al Kain, that's why benefesh this inyan in the nefesh is gam kain bepnimis v'atzmas nefesh. In the nefesh also it is in the pnimis and atzmas nefesh. Ve'alidei zeh, and alidei zeh, as a result, and through this pathway of the pnimis, or the call from the pnimis and atzmas nefesh, mamshich in bechinas ha'atzmas dein soibot. This is how we mamshich bechinas ha'atzmas dein soibot. Because that is what the Pnimis Asmas HaNefesh relates to. The Pnimis Asmas HaNefesh is not missing, so to speak, the presence and the experience of Elokus. It's missing the actual reality of Elokus itself, of Atzmos. As we are saying in our proverbial example, this host and the guest, no matter what the guest gets from the host, if he doesn't have the host himself, he doesn't have anything. And this is expressed in this tshuva element.
So, So the mitzvahs tshuva hamshachas bechinas atzmus balaratzi, and this gives the koyach that we should be bechinas nafsheinu and nischarik the emes.
Go ahead, finish what you want to say.
Because it says here that mitzvahs tshuva is hamshachas bechinas atzmus balaratzi, and then al-kain, and then it's the Validezim Mamshichim Bechinas Atzmus De'intzei Baruch.
Right.
So Atzmus De'intzei Baruch Hu and Atzmus Balaratze, they're two different.
No, it's the same thing.
So it's two different Amshachis?
No. No, but you skipped a few words, the first half of the line. So you're reading it out of context. Mitzvahs v'hainu. This means to say, behind this whole discussion is pointing to the following principle: that the mitzvah of tshuva is hamshochet bechinas atzmus bal horotzin. That's the mitzvah of tshuva, to be mamshech bechinas atzmus horotzin. Ve'al kei, and for this reason, ben nefesh. How does it accomplish? What is this elicitation from the nefesh in order to be mamshech bechinas atzmus bal horotzin? Yegan ki mipnimis ve'atzmus hanefesh. ועל ידי זה ממשיכים בכינוס ועצמוס אינסוף. וזהו, and that also explains the fact שעל ידי התשובה, that as a result of tshuva, choizin v'nimshochim are reverted back and are drawn back, coming back, kom hartzoynes shenistalku. All the ritzoynes, or the will and the goodwill that were retracted as a result of the misdeed, as a result of the errors. As we said, that when there is an error, when there is a sin, so the rotzin that was reflected in this mitzvah has been retracted, has been rejected, and therefore it's installed. But as a result of tshuva, all the nishtalkim are coming back. Why? Being that the aspect of the etzem is drawn by tshuva, and then as a result, nimshochim memela kol hagilui. Automatically, with the Baal Horotzin, with the Bechinas Etzem, automatically come along all the Giluyim and all the expressions, all the Ritzoinos that the Baal Horotzin wants. Except that this Hamshocha is in a much more powerful, a much superior manner, because this Hamshocha and all the Ritzoinos is not because of the Ritzoinos, but because of the Baal Horotzin himself. Zehu, and that also is the point that's made. Masha alidei hatshuva, the fact that as a result of tshuva nase merutzo, the person becomes accepted oid yoiser mi bekoidom, even more than before. Even more than before he ever sinned. He becomes accepted even more than before. Why? Because shegili hortzoinos. Because now after tshuva, the gili ritzoinos, the ritzoinos, the general ritzoinos, all the mitzvahs and everything, are now mizgala, are expressed now. Heim oz. Then after tshuva, they are as alidei hamshochas oetzem. Then these ritzoinos are the result of hamshochas oetzem. The ritzoinos are automatic because the etzem is nimshach. It's a completely different power behind the ritzoinos. This is why he becomes merutza even more than before. And he calls them move on. Thus, from all of the above, move on is clearly understood. The malas hatshuva higoveya v'nalam eid. That the mile of tshuva is very supreme. And this, in fact, is the inyan of tshuva shefer. Who inyan hatshuva? Which is inyan of tshuva? Then Cain and move on, and thus we're going back to the original question. We can't understand Eich mevatlin mitzvah kazul, how the Chacham are nullified, are rejecting such a mitzvah of that capacity, of that caliber, mishum cheshosha rechoiko d'shem yavirenu, for a distant concern, Shem yavirenu, lest he will carry the shefer by mistake in Meshus Harab. I believe that this is where the end of parenthesis really should be. Okay. So this is now completion of that question. How the Chachamim, this is the original question, and the whole parenthesis is to explain that statement that we made almost inadvertently, that Shuma is a very high mitzvah. How the Chachamim vatal, and we asked the question: how can you compare one mitzvah to the other? All mitzvahs are Meibash's mitzvahs, and we were able to show that yes, all mitzvahs are Meibash's mitzvahs, and all mitzvahs have the inyan from Mitzvah, from the Baal Horotzin, but Tshuva is unique, that its entire presence is the Hamshoch from Baal Horotzin. Okay, now we pursue further. So our question is, how were the Chachamim able, what justified the Chachamim to be mevatel the mitzvah of shofar, which is in Hatshuva? The Hagam, although the Iker Hatshuva, he believed, although that in fact the principle of tshuva is in the heart, shehi mi mitzvahs halavovois. The mitzvah of tshuva is of the mitzvahs that performed in the heart. There are mitzvahs of the heart, mitzvahs of the mind, mitzvahs of the hand, of the act, and so forth. Tshuva is one of those mitzvahs halvavos of the heart. So, what's the question? The implication is, since mitzvah tshuva is believed, so whether you blow shofar or you don't blow shofar, you're not nullifying the mitzvah of tshuva. You are saying that this aspect of mitzvah tshuva, which is here shofar, we are bypassing this time, but we're not nullifying the mitzvah of tshuva, because tshuva principally is in the heart, and you can still do tshuva without saying shofar. Or k'meisha kosu, the pasuk says, "Soat libam elavai," that their heart screams elavai. This is the hatshu, and therefore this soat libam elavai can still go on without mitzvah shofar. Chacham didn't say you shouldn't do tshuva. Chacham said you shouldn't blow shofar. So what is our question then? Kol mokoim, but nevertheless, we have to understand harigam hi bo b'mais. It's true that the Iker HaTshuva is in the heart, but it also expresses itself in action. And as it says in the pasuk when you're talking about tshuva, This is the same area, the same psukim that we mentioned before. Asher onoichi mitzavcho hayoim, onoichi misham dokam v'atshuva. So v'atshuva it says, ki kore v'lecha v'ficha v'vavcha la'asoyse. That this mitzvah of tshuva is close to you to the point where beficho v'vavcha in your mouth and in your heart la'asoyse and to do it. Beficho zehu shofer the Rosh Hashanah. Where is it from beficho? The Hatshuva is bepicha, is beshoifa. Mishakotib l'kuleteira shebidal maskel ki ha-mitzvah hazais. Yeah. So therefore, even though it's primarily beiked in the heart, but beficha and mitzvahs and the shofar is definitely an integral part of the mitzvah of tshuva. The gam, and furthermore, there is also a principal element in this, because the yiker ha-tshuva, the principle of tshuva, the central point of tshuva is שהנפש הבאמיס יושב להווי. That the nefesh habamis should be turned toward Hashem. Why is that the most important thing in tshuva? Shaharei sibas horichuk chas v'sholem hu mehanefesh habamis. Since that the whole cause of the richuk that elicited in Hatshuva is mitzad the nefesh habamis. Therefore, v'alkein tzorich liyas hatshuva gam ki b'nefesh habamis. Therefore, it's imperative that the tshuva should be with the nefesh habamis. V'zehu in hatkiya b'shefer shel Ayil. And in fact, in order to incorporate and engage the nefesh habamis in hatshuva, and as we said just a moment ago, that this is really an important part of tshuva, the nefesh habamis should also be effective. This is in hatshuva hatkiya b'shefer shel Ayil. That is the Ayin that is represented by blowing shefer shel Ayil over ram. Shehu inyan odo b'behema tishi havaya, which is because Ayil, this is the behema, this is the nefesh habamis, and odo b'behema, this is enjoying nefesh elikis and nefesh habamis, and that this is what in hatshuva is. In Cain, and so therefore you have to have the behema engaged as well. Cain ain't a move on and thus. It's very difficult to understand. How is it that the Chachamim mevatel the mitzvah mishum chshosho because of this concern of Shema Yavirenu Dal Dam Meshusar Rabim, when this is an integral and an important part of the mitzvah? This is how you get the nefesh habamis engaged. Okay, we'll go a few more lines. Just go through this quickly. We also need to understand more specific aspects of this chash, of this concern. Father Chacham will concern lest by mistake he will pass it through for Amish and Shuzarab, and they did not express the concern unless he will actually transfer it from Shuzarab, which is a momentary one. You transfer from Shuzarab, which you have to go 4 Amos. But this is, you just go through over the door, the step, and you choose a rabbi. And that is one concerned. Well, the taste was he came. In taste was they asked this question. The Tirtzu and the taste was answers. The Yochid, the Shuz Rabim, Isle Hekera. There is something to remind him that he is actually passing through from one rishus to the other. And what is the Hekera? The Pesach Yefufe HaChotzer. In the opening Yefufe HaChotzer and the posts of the courtyard. And therefore there is no need to be concerned, because he'll be reminded that he is actually passing through Ava B'Shuz Rabim. But within the Shuz Rabim, Zimin Lavadaita. Occasionally it could be Lavadaita, he's walking through 4 Amos, he doesn't realize that he's actually going through from one Shuz to another. But this also remains to be fully explained. Lomo. Why is that? From the perspective of transferring from Yochid to Rabim, there is no concern. Okay, this is where we are stopping now. Have a good day.
Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Call to David.
The first question, the question Taisus asks and answers is Lama Chashashu, and the Rebbe is now asking, why is there Chashash? Like fairness, why is there Chashash? Chashash by then. Taisus asks Lama Chashashu here and not there,
Right.
and answers. And the Rebbe says, now we have to understand fairness, why is there a Chashash here and not a Chashash there?
Right. You mean, why is the answer of Tosfos not sufficient? That's what you're saying. Right. Because the whole Shash is some kind of a Reuven Zikirinian, and the distinguish between Shuzah Yochid and Shuzah Rabim is a very the Nigel answer is a very fine answer, very the truth is, practically speaking, where does the shofar originate from? Is the shofar sleeping in the Shuzah Rabim? No. So in order to be carrying Dal Adam Shuzah Rabim, you have to first take it out in Shuzah Yochid.
Yeah, I thought that was the side of the original question.
Yeah, but I'm saying Tosfos has these are all answers for the, so to speak, the momentary answer. It's not a satisfactory answer. No.
Dun did it on dun down dun down did it on dun down 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 no did it on dun 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 no 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 did it on dun 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 no 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 no